For all those who appreciate the work that we're doing here on Standing for Truth, please hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started.
We can still use it if we want to.
Okay.
All right.
Well, when it comes to recombination, it's been asserted that the rates are too slow to account for the de novo creation of Adam and Eve just around 6,000 years ago. Is this an argument you can cross?
Well, what's the recombination rate? It depends on... We used to think it was random. It's not. It's controlled by a gene. The PRDM9 enzyme looks for a specific set of letters on the chromosome, grabs onto it, and recombines.
Ah, okay.
Africans have more of those sites than Europeans.
Ah,
wow. Whoa, wait a minute now. Hold it. That messes up the molecular clock right there. Because if you have more recombination per generation, your population can hold more diversity. You have more pieces of DNA in the population. So how long ago was this out of Africa event? Well, I don't know. If Africans have more recombination, they're going to look older just because of the amount of recombination.
Right.
And because mutation will destroy the PRDM9 sites over time, it's much more likely... I forget what the letter combination is, but it's much more likely to destroy it than to create it through a mutation. So our recombination rate should be slowing down over time.
So, okay, so that would, and so many good points there that it brings a couple questions to mind. So that would, in effect, I've heard the critics say, okay, you know, the higher levels of genetic diversity found in Africa means Africans are older than non-Africans, but they also look to linkage blocks between Africans and non-Africans, that they look at that and try and say that Africans are an older population as well, and use that to support the out of Africa theory. So that looks like the recombination rates would help with those arguments too, Dr. Carter?
Yeah, plus... we don't know how many people went to Africa after the flood. We don't know how many different groups migrated down there. It looks like there was a massive replacement of people in Eurasia. As the farmers learned how to farm in the Middle East, they started spreading out, and they replaced Neanderthals, they replaced the Denisovans, they replaced the ancient hunter-gatherers. Most Europeans in ancient times had dark skin and blue eyes. We see that in all their DNA. And all of a sudden, there's this massive replacement of light-skinned people as they come in with farming. So we can't necessarily look at modern people and say, ah, this is what the original population looked like. The Europeans specifically, we're inbred. We're one of the most inbred large populations on the planet.
Man,
Europeans came from a very small population group that took over a large area. There's not a lot of genetic diversity in Europe compared to specifically Africa or even the Middle East.
Yeah, I saw one of the papers that was recently written. They discovered what they call Cheddar Man, and he had black skin, blue eyes.
Well, when those letters appear in modern people, they're associated with darker skin tones.
Mm.
But it's not perfect. 23andme.com says I'm supposed to have blue eyes. I don't have blue eyes. But I carry a variant that's very strongly associated with blue eyes. So the inference of how a person looked from their genetics is imprecise. And even if it works in a modern context, we don't know the ancient persons, all these other variants that we haven't really categorized yet. And if they're not around the world today, we don't know what they do. You can't necessarily say, but it does look like the evidence is pointing in the direction that the hunter-gatherer Europeans had darker skin, and a lot of them had blue eyes. Maybe.
Man, so one question real quick that comes to my mind is they say Neanderthal was basically a ginger, red hair, pale with freckles. Was that determined again by genes, by finding?
Yes and no. Neanderthals had a lot of diversity of pigmentation genes. They weren't ubiquitously red hair or light skinned, but definitely some of them carried genes that look like they would have caused that because they're associated with those traits in modern people.